everybody, to the Open Mic program, the Sports Talk Nation, right here on the YouTube channel, the Sports Talk Nation on YouTube, as well as Blog Talk Radio as well. Folks, glad to have you tonight. We got a good one for you today. We are going to talk about the New England Patriots in the 2017 season. The Patriots coming off of a Super Bowl victory last year, their second in a 3-year period, as their dynasty continues. And really, when you look at the Patriots, and you look at where they compare in the modern dynasties of the NFL, and throughout the history of the NFL, you look back at the Steelers of the 1970s, even the Cowboys of the 70s. I know they only won 2 Super Bowls, lost a lot of championships, obviously, to Pittsburgh during that decade. Cowboys in the 90s, San Francisco in the 80s and the 90s, for that matter. And it's hard to find any real team that can compare. Maybe in recent times, in the vivid memory bank of myself and even our guest who will come in a few minutes, of Chris Hogan of 27 Outs, maybe the San Francisco 49ers kind of come up as a team that can compare, but those 49er teams in the 90s, outside 1994, were always a team that won 12 games, won 13 games, and then found a way to lose at some point in the playoffs. This Patriots team, what they have done over the last 2 decades now 17 years, to find ways to succeed almost every single year, to find ways to get to a championship game virtually every single year now, and now get back to Super Bowls and win Super Bowls as they've done now 2 of the last 3 years. Remarkable what they've put together over this decade and a half of excellence for them. And Chris Hogan, who I now welcome into the show here today to talk about the Patriots. It is amazing what this team's done over the last 17 years. And when you think about it, you go back to 2001 when this team was 0-2, when Drew Bledsoe got hurt in Week 2 against the Jets, and then Tom Brady comes in. Had Bill Belichick decided to go with Damon Huard, we could be sitting here not talking about the Patriots 17 years later. It's amazing how the Patriots story over the years just becomes that much more legendary when you think about it, of how they decided to do a couple of things differently. It changes the history of not just that franchise, but the league.
Yeah, Mike, it's good to be back with you, my friend. And, it is pretty crazy if you ask me. The way, like I said, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, like I said, they're one of the best tandems in basically the football era, I guess you could say. We got the Bradshaws of the days, the Cowboys in the 90s, stuff like that. But it's hard to pass what the Patriots have done the last, 17-plus years. I think they've only missed the playoffs, 2002, I believe, is the only year they missed it in the Bill Belichick era. And, Damon Huard, that's a pretty name. I think he only lasted, maybe 3-4 more years as a backup to Matt Hasselbeck after he left the Patriots. But, in Seattle. But, it's definitely amazing what they can do. And, they can overcome a lot of uncertainty. And, like I said, they've had a really rough training camp so far. We'll get into, obviously, with Julian Edelman and Coney Ely experiments. So, but, I'm excited to see what this year will bring for the Patriots for sure.
Chris Hogan, of course, joining us from 27 Outs. Chris, great to have you back on, of course. And what's been going on, man?
Yeah, we've, like I said, football's pretty much around us right now. Like I said, I've been kind of shifting between baseball, the preseason, a little bit of Zeke Elliott, so it's been a little crazy for me. But I just got back from Augusta to cover the Giants single-A team, the Augusta Green Jackets. Just interviewed Jason Hayward's younger brother and Jacob, a good kid there. So, we just recapped the Cape Cod League Baseball League on 3 and Out Radio, iHeart Radio, and iTunes. So that's been pretty much. Ben and I are kind of gearing up towards the end of the off season, but we'll have a fun month of September. We're going to have some good guests, so a lot to look forward to.
Absolutely, and of course, he and Ben Poplin do a show on 27 Outs Baseball and also iHeartRadio, and it's just fantastic what those two guys do. They travel up and down the eastern seaboard, mostly down south, talking to minor league players, minor league coaches, doing all kinds of great interviews, and you know what? You never know when you find that diamond in the rough, that guy who ends up being that next big star in the major leagues, and who knows, maybe you've already interviewed that guy at some point.
Yeah, I like to think so. And we're working on getting guys that are, maybe never reached the majors, but some of them have, changed careers, even occupation, stuff like that. So we just talked to Nick Shaw, who was in the Milwaukee Brewers system for 7 years, put together a pretty decent career. All aside, hit about 260 over about 700 minor league games, reached Double-A, but now he's an entrepreneur now, and started his own batters. It's called the battersbox.co. Basically, Little League and softball, they are care packages you can get every month. So That's pretty cool. So yeah, you never know what these guys stories are going to entail. But like I said, I'd cover minor league baseball and these guys for the next 30 years compared to Major League Baseball. So it's pretty rewarding.
It really is, man. It really is. Let's take a look at this. Taking a look at this New England Patriots team going into this season. You brought up the injury to Julian Edelman, and it does have an effect on this team. Now, look, this is a group that is loaded. I mean, they bring in Brandin Cooks, who's going to add a dimension to this offense. Certainly a vertical passing game that maybe they really didn't have last couple of years. Rob Gronkowski is going to be healthy. You have Danny Amendola, but he's the guy who's usually an injury away or a play away from being injured and being on IR himself at times. And then there's the other Chris Hogan, also who's that slot receiver. Is going to be looked upon a lot more this year with Edelman out. But Julian Edelman, and I know it's easy to sit here and talk about how great this Patriot offense can still be. Edelman had a really big impact on this team. I mean, he was one of the top receivers in the league, just in receptions per year, I think, over the last 4 or 5 years. So his losses will be felt in some respects this year.
Yeah, he's not a big touchdown guy compared to your Gronks and your other guys. Martell's been who he had last year. But yeah, like I said, he's a top 10, top 15 receiver, had over 1,000 yards, I believe close to 100 catches last year. And his vacancy will be lost. I mean, it'll hurt them a lot. But like I said, we know Bill Belichick can bring a scrub off the street, a guy that maybe hasn't even played in the year, and can still make him valuable and successful in the offense that the Patriots run. We obviously know it's very pass-heavy, and secondary running is secondary. So, Brandin Cooks, if they didn't have Brandin Cooks on the roster, I think Patriots fans would freak out a little bit more because, Brandin Cooks is a young guy who's about 23, 24. He was a deep threat in Drew Brees' offense in New Orleans, last couple of years. So I think he's going to be a good addition, but like I said, Edelman's experience with Tom Brady under Bill Belichick, working with Josh McDaniels, his veteran leadership on the field. He was at Wes Welker after Wes Welker left. Basically, he took the reins from him. So I don't think the Patriots fans need to freak out, but I still think they need to add another somewhat experienced wide receiver before the end of training camp, which we're going to break within the next 10 days or so before we get to the regular season. So I think that, you look at a team like the San Francisco Giants, the 49ers or the Rams, teams that may not have great wide receivers, but like I look at a Tavon Austin from the Rams or a Jeremy Curley, maybe you can mid-round pick for him. I think you need get a guy that has some kind of some experience, and help that regard. They shouldn't go into the season with their core. Yes, Mitchell and Malcolm Mitchell, the second-year player, guys like that, Cooks and Hogan and stuff, but I think they need another receiver or two just to make sure that they're in tune for the start of the season.
You can never have enough weapons, and we all know that. And like I mentioned, there's always the chance another injury could prop up. The Patriots have seen enough injuries over the last couple of years. I brought up Danny Amendola, a guy who always seems to get hurt every single year that he's in the league. He's a good receiver, no doubt about that, but he just doesn't play enough. So you always have to be ready for that to happen. So I agree with you in some respects that they could go out there and see if they can pry away another receiver from one of these bad teams. Maybe someone gets cut in camp that has a pretty good track record that they could pick up. Then again, there's always the guys that they have there. A Matthew Slater, for example, is a guy who I know is up there, has been around the league for a long time, 10 years now in the NFL. But, do they consider using him a little bit more, getting him some more targets? It's possible. I mean, it's been a while for him since he's really had an impact in a game. I understand that. He certainly didn't play it all last year. Maybe he picks it up this year. Maybe he has bigger impact this year. We'll see. But I definitely see where you're coming from. Yeah,
like I said, I would be shocked if they don't bring in a receiver. That's what the Patriots usually do. If it's on the defensive side, offensive side, they usually pick up free agents that are cut that have, several years of experience that could add to either as a backup or in a possible special teams role. Slater, I see more as a special teamer. We know he's a special teamer, Pro Bowler every year, and he has caught maybe, 10, 15 passes a year and been, valuable on special teams. But this is where it's going to help the Patriots having running backs, guys like James White and, Rex Burkhead and Dion Lewis that can catch the ball in the backfield, take that pressure off of the loss of Julian Edelman a little bit. So that's going to help. I mean, that's very valuable if you ask me, because someone like LeGarrette Blount couldn't do that last year. He was more, just a tough runner in the middle. But the Patriots' versatility in the backfield should help a little bit the loss of Edelman when it comes to, Tom Brady spreading out the offense. I think looking for the running backs to throw to.
You bring up LeGarrette Blount, and I really like Blount. I mean, he was a big part of this team over the last 2 years. Big, powerful guy, runs over players, gets to the second level pretty well. Maybe not your typical slash and dash running back, but a good power back. So he is not going to be here this year. Free agent moving on. I think he went to Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. And now they have Mike Gillislee. They bring him in from Buffalo. What's it going to be with this running game? I mean, we'll have to see how Gillislee plays. I don't know if he's going to give the Patriots that kind of power that they got with Blount. He's a little bit small on the small side, certainly on the weight side compared to Blount. I'm really interested to see how they do this. They might even just do this what they used to do back in the day with Kevin Falk, where they had a whole bunch of running backs by committee, and that's how they were able to succeed. But 40-year-old quarterback, different. You lose Edelman, or with the loss of Edelman as well. You want to see maybe a little more of a dynamic running game if you can. I'm really interested to see how Gillislee fits into this offense.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be not. I wouldn't say running back by committee type format, but we know the Patriots have used kind of 3-4 running backs in a game before. I think if the season started right now, I think probably Gillislee would be your number one running back in terms of just the first 3 downs. Obviously, he was more used as Sean McCoy's backup in a third down / goal line runner last year as a running back with the Bills in their offense, but. I just think, I was a little stunned myself with the LeGarrette Blount situation. I knew he was in his early 30s, ran for 18 touchdowns. I think that was a Patriots record, and I don't know what the NFL record is, but I thought he could have came back. I don't know if it was just a money thing or just the Patriots wanted to kind of get younger, what they saw in the playoffs with Lewis and White. So I don't know if they just wanted to get younger in that format. I mean, that's understandable, but Gillislee was only signed for about $3 million a year over the next 2 years. I think he's I don't know how, like I said, he's about 500-600 yards in his brief career, a couple of years. So we don't know if he's a 250-yard per season carry type running back and that can handle an Adrian Peterson or a Doug Martin type load in the past. So I think, like I said, I think it's going to be running back by committee to start the year. And if Delon Lewis is fully healthy and James White continues to develop, it's going to be dynamic. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't have a 1,000-yard rusher in the backfield because that's how good the dynamic they could use these guys. Even a guy like Rex Burkhead coming over from Cincinnati, I think they maybe envision him how like a Danny Woodhead did for the Patriots about a couple of years back. So it's going to be very interesting. But I like Gillislee's potential possibly in this Patriots offense.
Possible, younger, plus you have an offensive line that's very, very solid up front for the Patriots. So they're certainly going to they're going to certainly create a lot of holes for Gillislee to run through. We'll see how it works out for them in the running game. Again, the running game for the Patriots over the years, with the exception of the last couple of years with Blount, hasn't always been a top priority. They've always been a team that's been focused on the passing game, of course, with Tom Brady at quarterback. And, let's just talk about with Brady here as well. 40 years old, certainly hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. He's talked about playing till he's 45. Get back to me in 5 years on that one, whether that actually does happen or not, we'll see. But there's also been indications that maybe in the next couple of years he may even consider retiring. We'll see if that. So, for me, for Brady, if you are a Brady hater, if you are a Brady fan, this is a kind of year where you sit back and you just kind of enjoy what you see with him because who knows? This could be the last year that we see Brady play. Maybe play at a very, very high level. As far as from what I can tell in a couple of preseason games I've seen from him, he doesn't look like he's lost a step at all. He looks exactly the way he did last couple of years. He's firing on all cylinders with this offense, and it's going to be another year where he's going to lead this team deep into the postseason, that's for sure. It's just a question of whether they can finish it off at the end as they've done the last couple of years.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of, my mind, I wouldn't say my mind was blown when he said he wanted to play till about 45, 46, another 5 or 6 years, but I think the only quarterback to win a playoff game over age 40 is, Brett Favre, I believe, in 2010 with the Vikings. So that tells you how likely the situation of a 40-year-old plus quarterback succeeding into their early 40s can be. But, yeah, like I said, he was excellent last year. 28 touchdowns compared to 2 interceptions, almost 300 yards a game. And, like I said, I think that Super Bowl quarterback, the way he came back, that was probably his best performance ever. Like I said, the way he came back against the Falcons, and he showed no signs of stopping. But, I think that the biggest thing that the Patriots fans and the NFL need to look at, you lost Edelman. But having a full, healthy Gronk, Dwayne Allen, I think, is going to be a nice addition. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Martellus Bennett was as a second tight end last year, but he's going to develop. He's a good deep threat as well. But Brandin Cooks, I think, is a nice young receiver. I'm not saying he's going to be Randy Moss type receiver, but that was that deep threat. But Tom Brady has the assets to possibly have another run. Like I said, if he was on a younger team, I could say maybe retire in the next year or so, but I think he's confident what the Patriots scheme is going to be the next few years, and possibly he's going to get some weapons. They still have over $15 million in cap space, so if they need to get another star receiver before the season, they could do it. So I'm pretty confident he's going to not fade for a while. And the only big challenge is the first couple weeks is he's going to face some tough defenses, Kansas City and obviously Houston. So there'll be a little bit of a test for him early on, but I'm not questioning him at all with this 40-year-old body, so we'll see.
No, I don't question him either. And what's remarkable is you compare him to other quarterbacks, throughout, not just in the league now, but also through history. There's so many guys that we see who, when they get up to this age, 38, 39, 40, they start to break down just a little bit. But this guy just seems to get better as he gets older. And I agree with you. I don't see any slowdown in the weapons he has. It's not going to happen. Certainly not going to happen this year, maybe even next year for that matter. So he's going to be around for a couple of more years, I would imagine. What that leads to what they do with Jimmy Garoppolo is another question. That's a question for the front office. I know they like him. I know they want to keep him around. At some point, though, they're going to have to make a decision whether they want to put that much money into him as a backup quarterback or just say, we still believe that Tom Brady can be at the top of his game for a couple more years and just let Garoppolo walk, and they can just end up drafting a potential quote-unquote future quarterback in a couple of years from now. But that's a question for the front office at another date.
Yeah, and like I said, he keeps what makes him so great about his age, and like I said, 40 is old for a quarterback. I think we've seen Vinny Testaverde, Brett Favre is only a couple quarterbacks. I think Drew Brees is going to be 40 as well, I believe, this year or next. So we definitely have seen some, but not all of them have exceeded like a Brett Favre into his early 40s has. Tom Brady does keep himself in great shape. That's what helps as well. He's on the strict diet. He's always working out. Even, a couple weeks after the season, he's working that with his his quarterback passing coach. I think his name's Tom Martinez in the San Francisco area. So he's fully engaged in the workouts early on. And like I said, he seems like he never, he takes these lavish vacations, but he's also put in that extra effort that makes him want to win. So I definitely don't see an end in sight for him. But Garoppolo played well in his couple starts for the Patriots during Tom Brady's suspension last year. And I was a little surprised yes, but not shocked. Surprised that they didn't trade him to the Browns because they could have got some draft picks. But like I said, the Patriots didn't draft much this year. So I understand holding on to him. But if Brady plays in 5 or 6 years, Garoppolo obviously would be better suited for another team. So, but in the short term, I think Garoppolo is a great backup for him. You even have Jacoby Brissett, who played decent in this one start. So this is the best quarterback situation I think the Patriots have had since, about 2000, 2001, Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady era. So it's another nice positive asset to have, I guess you could say.
Yeah, certainly a lot better than a lot of teams I can think of off the top of my head as far as the quarterback situation is concerned. And you have the kind of weapons they do, and you have on the offensive side of the ball, makes things even better. Defensively, they've changed things up just a little bit. They brought in a couple of new players. David Harris comes to mind, former New York Jet, who they picked up a couple of months ago after the Jets cut him. The biggest move, of course, was getting Stephon Gilmore, also from the division from Buffalo. He's going to be their cornerback, so that gives them that potential big shutdown corner that they were looking for. And that just adds to this defense of guys that have been there and have had success, like Dante Hightower, Devin McCourty, Patrick Chung. Those are the stalwarts of this defense now. Defensively, certainly expect them to be pretty good. I mean, they've always been a middle-of-the-pack defense anyway, but it's their ability to make big plays in big spots that's really distinguished this group over everybody else from a lot of teams in the league over the last few years.
Yeah, and the defense, I agree. And this the way they played the defense, I think they were the only team last year that didn't allow a 100-yard rusher until the Falcons game in the Super Bowl. Defensively, they were very good last year, I think, as the season got on. And this is one of the better defenses. Yeah, the Patriots have been good every year, but last year's defense was one of the better ones you've probably seen in the last maybe 5-6 years. And yeah, they didn't draft much in terms of this year, but I mean they got Derek Rivers, the defensive end out of Youngstown State, who tore his ACL, and then they got another guy out of Arkansas in the 4th or 5th round. But Yeah, like I said, I think the secondary is a top 5 for sure. Like I said, I think Seattle still has the best with Sherman and Earl Thomas and all those guys. But like you said, they're seasoned veterans. Gilmore, a lot of people said they overpaid for him, but like I said, we know NFL salaries are going up for guys. He's one of the best physical corners, and he has had some good games against the Patriots in the past. But the Patriots have pretty much owned any AFC East team in the last decade plus. So I think tackling wise and man coverage is going to be very good this year. My only concern is, the depth of the linebacking core. Yeah, you mentioned David Harris is going to be an excellent leader along with Hightower.
Absolutely.
But after that, Rob Ninkovich was a defensive end / linebacker. He just retired abruptly during the middle of the summer. I understand, like I said, he wanted to be close to the family. He was in his mid-30s. He was kind of worn down last year. So I think the depth of the linebackers position after your Hightowers and Harris's, Shea McClellan as well, after that's going to, be a little, not stingy, but I'd say it's a little bit questioned. So maybe upgrade there if you can, if a team cuts another veteran defensive end. I think it's going to be okay. Like I said, Alan Branch is a great run stopper. You got Trey Flowers, who really came on as a pass rusher. So then the Coney Ely experiment didn't work out. They just released him after giving him a second-round pick to Carolina. So defensive ends, they still have to work out a little bit, but secondary I would not worry about too much. We'll just have to worry about the front seven, I would say, a little bit more as the season starts.
Very, very true, and I think in a lot of ways that front seven, especially front four on the D-line, a little bit underrated in some ways. I mean, you got, like you mentioned, Trey Flowers, the guy who had 7 sacks last year. The guy was unbelievable. Alan Branch has done a nice job providing some rush up front as well. So they're an underrated unit up front, and I think with all the headlines going to Brady, Edelman, Gronkowski on the offensive side of the ball, you bring up also bring up Malcolm Butler, of course, with a big play in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So the defense doesn't get as much pub as a lot of other defenses do around the National Football League, but this is as solid a unit as it's ever been. You got a head coach whose expertise has been defense throughout his entire life. You go back to his days with the New York Giants and Bill Belichick. Of course, you have a defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, who was going to be a head coaching candidate. Was a head coaching candidate this year, didn't get a job. Probably might get a job next year. We'll see what happens. But it's a really, really solid unit up top to bottom, with the exception of a couple of questions at the linebacker position.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the Patriots also don't get enough credit for, like I said, the backup situation in the secondary. Eric Rowe, the Patriots gave a 4th-round pick last year to the Eagles for, and a lot of people said, like, why would you give up a early to mid-round pick for him? And he ended up struggled early in the year as a secondary backup, in terms of the corner position. But he came on later in the year. You got Daron Harmon, who's been, with the Patriots for about 4 or 5 years as a backup. He played well at times. So secondary, backups were even pretty good. Cyrus Jones, the second-year player, should be able to hopefully get better after some special team glimpses last year and, some blown coverages. So hopefully he'll get better. But like I said, I think, linebacking depth is the biggest question overall. Like I said, I think the defensive line is going to be fine, like the guys we mentioned, Malcolm Brown. Lawrence Guy came over from Baltimore. He'll be a nice veteran addition as well. So we'll have to see. But like I said, hopefully they can add another linebacker or two after the final round of cuts. But like I said, I still think it's a top 15 defense if you ask me. I don't know if it's top 10, but they should still be solid against the run and the pass as well.
I agree with you 100%. And, they've always been that kind of they've always been around 15, 14 in defensive rank anyway. I think that's probably where they'll be. I'll be interested to see if Bill Belichick goes out there and gets another linebacker. I mean, you mentioned the next round of cuts, and the way the cuts are done now, it's changed. I mean, now it's just a whole bunch of cuts where you've gone from 90 to 75 to 53. Now they pretty much go from 90 to 53 now with a couple of rule changes with Players Association. So we'll see which players become available as far as that's concerned. I wouldn't be surprised. Look, the Patriots have done this every so often, middle of the year, where they've swung a deal. Would you be shocked if they swing a deal, try to get somebody from a team that maybe has had some high expectations, has fallen on those expectations to get some linebacker help?
I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm also thinking as we speak, Ahmad Brooks, the longtime 49ers linebacker, after 10 years, he was released by the 49ers. I think he would be a good fit for them as well. So we also saw Ray Maliuga, who is a former Bengals linebacker, recently signed with the Dolphins. But, like I said, you'll have that veteran presence out there. And like I said, you see surprising cuts every year, and then you see basically cuts that are not surprised. So I would be shocked if they don't address that. So I think right now, like I said, if you and I are talking today, and then we talked a month later about this, I say probably linebacking depth in receiver depth is probably their number 1 and 1A, 1B targets right now. I think wide receiver is probably higher on that list, but like I said, you can't go wrong adding another linebacker. So I think secondary you don't really need to worry about. And another defensive end wouldn't help because they did struggle a little bit in the sack department last year. I think they were kind of in like that low 20s, kind of bottom tier. So if they can address that as well, like I said, they still have enough cap space where it's not going to be an issue. $15 million, that's still a lot, if you ask me. So. But like I said, they'll be fine, but they'll address those needs. I'm not too worried as a Patriots fan and follower. So
I do have some breaking news here, though, Chris. And again, we're talking with Chris Hogan of 27-ounce baseball. We're previewing the New England Patriots for the 2017 season. Breaking news: before the Patriots have just clinched the AFC East. It's all over.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if you said that right now. So
seriously though, when I look at this division, yes, Miami, they have Jay Cutler there. He can certainly provide some offense there. They do have a team that has a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. I just don't know if Miami can be consistent enough to, topple the Patriots. I certainly don't see that. I certainly don't see them getting the 13 wins, maybe 9-10 wins for Miami. That's about it. Buffalo's in a rebuild. The Jets are in a major rebuild, and a lot of questions with the quarterback, the head coach, the general manager, whether they're going to be there next year to pick up a Sam Darnold if that guy were to be available. So AFC East, it's a division that has a lot to be desired for that matter. A division the Patriots probably should win and probably should go 6-0 in. It's really about them putting themselves in position to handle this early schedule, I think. You mentioned that early schedule is going to be tough. First 3 games are very intriguing. The Kansas City game, of course, on opening day. What are the Chiefs going to look like now without Spencer Ware there, who was out with a PCL injury probably out for the season? The game at New Orleans, I think, is fascinating. You've got that high-powered New Orleans offense up against the Patriots. Breeze against Brady is going to be the talk all week. That is a fascinating game in Week 2, and that's a dangerous game Week 2. Patriots have always gotten off to these fast starts, like 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 for a number of years. That could be a game they could get tripped up in, and then they get Houston. So, very intriguing start to the year for the Patriots.
Yeah, it's going to, like I said, the Patriots have beat both of those teams. I'm talking about Houston and Kansas City. They've had not their number, but they've been pretty good matchups. Like I said, we saw the 2 matchups against the Texans last year, and the Patriots did pretty well. They were low scoring early in the season, but yeah, like I said, defensively, I think it's biggest test. Like I said, the Chiefs always have a good defense, obviously. They have a good Justin Houston linebacker. They have, Eric Berry in the backfield, so they have a very good, secondary as well. So that's going to be tough. We know Alex Smith is a decent quarterback. I have some people think he's a top 15. He's not great, but he's still solid. He can run a little bit. And, they'll have, Ware's going to be a big loss, obviously. Like I said, he came around a little bit last year as well. So I think the Buccaneers game, you can't really overlook that. I believe that's early in the season. No, that's later in the year. Excuse me. But New Orleans, like I said, Drew Brees. Defensively, the Saints are still pretty much a mess, I guess you could say. That's why they were. I guess you could say they were 500 last year. They were in a lot of shootouts. Like I said, they'll score a lot, but they'll give a lot of points up. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if they both Tom Brady and Brees throw for 350 and then 3 touchdowns apiece, and it's a 1-score 31-24 type game by halftime. So, but yeah, like I said, and then you got Houston. Obviously, they lost a little bit with A.J. Boye going to the Jaguars a little bit. They lost a little bit defensively, but like I said, they're still very solid. Kareem Jackson, Jonathan Joseph in the backfield. And obviously, if J.J. Watt's healthy, that's only going to take matters into a bigger storm for them. And obviously, let's see where Clowney's head is this year as well. So, because like I said, he's had some off-the-field issues with his character. But, yeah, like I said, the first 3 weeks are probably going to be pretty crazy. But, I'm excited to see how that Buccaneers match up as well later in the year. I think the Buccaneers could surprise a lot of teams as well with Winston, Mike Wallace, and Deshaun Jackson as well. So, it's going to be a fun year for the Patriots. Like I said, they'll have 18 games, maybe 14, but a lot of teams could sneak up on them and play. I'm not saying tag along with them, but they're not going to be shootouts. But I think a lot of these teams that they're going to play are going to give them a good run for their money.
Yeah, especially early in the season. There are those games that you mentioned. The Buccaneers game it's fairly early. It's October the 5th. It's nudging the middle of the season right there in October. I think that's a Thursday night game as well. So that's going to be That's going to be a short rest coming off that Carolina game, which will be a physical contest itself. Carolina does play some good defense as well, but that isn't going to be in Foxborough. So there'll be some good early tests there earlier in the season. The couple of games later in the year that are going to be really interesting to watch, and I think that's going to be that stretch in November where they play at Denver on a Sunday night and then come back the next week, and they will play Oakland in Mexico City. Though I know the Patriots over the years have had their issues in Denver. I know last year they won the game up there, but they've had their issues up in Denver over the years. Some bad losses, obviously, in the AFC Championship game. That weird loss to Brock Osweiler on a Sunday night in December a couple of years back. But to come off that and then go into that Oakland game, that's probably their toughest stretch late in the season this year.
Yeah, I could say that. Like I said, Denver is going to be. I think Denver is probably in the lower tier. I think they're right now. I think I have them third because Trevor Siemian. I don't think they give him and Paxton Lynch. Going back, Lynch is going to be out another month. I think with a shoulder sprain. But I don't think Trevor Siemian played all that bad considering the obstacles he had. And yeah, like I said, whenever you have Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, yeah, that's going to be two very tough receivers. So McCourty and Gilmore, they're going to have some tough matchups with those guys. And, Denver, defensively, they were pretty good for the most part last year. They played very well against the Patriots and in that game. But, yeah, like I said, how's Oakland's defense going to be? Is it going to hold up? Because it wore down at times last year. They were very good offensively. How's Derek Carr going to be this year? But, yeah, I would say that's a tough stretch. But, that October schedule is pretty rough as well. Like I said, you mentioned Carolina, Tampa Bay, and Atlanta. Obviously the Super Bowl rematch. But I think that because that stretch, like I said, I don't know how the Panthers are going to be. We don't know Cam Newton's going to be. There's a lot of ifs on this. Quarterbacks that the Patriots play this season in terms of their health and just the weapons around them. But I could say that's one you mentioned with Denver and Oakland as a tough matchup. But like I said, I think that early part of October into late October, Halloween time, that's probably the toughest in my opinion because after Thanksgiving, it gets a little bit easier. We got Buffalo and the Jets. Pittsburgh's obviously going to be tough, but if they can secure that first half, through Halloween and, I'm not saying win every game, but close to it, and then kind of easy stretch, they should be able to make an easy AFC East division title this year. So I don't know what it was with the NFL schedule makers, but, maybe they gave the December colder weather advance to the Patriots, and I'm not saying they're going to blow out teams, but could be happy ending to the regular season for Patriots fans.
Yeah, they were still interesting. How can we make the Patriots 16-0? But no, but seriously, I mean, they kind of stacked some of the tougher games early in the season and put some of the softer games in the division at the later part of the year, with the exception of the Pittsburgh game on the 17th of December. So that Raiders team, I mean, they're going to be a team that's good, that everyone's talking about this year. People are saying Super Bowl with them. I don't know about that. I think it's to me anyway, I think it's kind of a slap in the face to the Patriots when you say that the Raiders are the favorites to win a Super Bowl. I've heard some people say that in the media. I think the Raiders had a great year last year, but they fell apart. Their defense, like you mentioned, fell apart at the end of the year, losing Derek Carr at the end of the season to the injury, and without him in the playoffs, they kind of look like at times remind me of Indianapolis. When Indianapolis has Andrew Luck, all bets are off. They could be a team that can win 10, 11 games. Without Andrew Luck, they're a question mark. And that's kind of how I look at the Raiders. Without Carr, what kind of team are they? Yeah, they have a lot of talent. They're certainly a better, more talented team than the aforementioned Colts. But I want to see more from the Raiders before I say, okay, they're definitely a Super Bowl team. I think I kind of believe in that, ascension, teams ascending very slowly up the pecking order. They got to the playoffs to the Raiders last year. Now they have to go out there and win a playoff game before I go out there and say, oh, yeah, definitely they're going to be a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're ahead of the Patriots by any means. Like I said, I still think Berg's even better than them if they can stay healthy and this whole Le'Veon Bell situation gets turned around, which it looks like it can. And I still, like I said, right now I still think the Patriots, Steelers, and then Raiders. Like I said, because the David Carr situation with his health still a little bit in question. They say he's fully healthy. We don't know the character issues of Marshawn Lynch going to be. This whole thing with the national anthem again. That's a little kiddish if you ask me. But I don't know. I think, like I said, offensively they're going to be very good. Amari Cooper is only getting better. Michael Crabtree is still a very good number 2 receiver. Jared Cook they added as well from Green Bay, who will be a nice tight end addition. But I don't know how they're going to be defensively. We know Mack and Jelani Jenkins is a nice addition from Miami. They got the linebacker, so I think they'll be good in the linebacking core. Secondary still a little unknown. Reggie Nelson and Sean Smith are veterans that have done decent in the past, but they got some young guys in the backfield, I guess you could say, in the secondary. So I still think they'll win the division. It's interesting because I think Kansas City is going to be number 2, but it could be hand in hand. Like I said, we saw a very close race with that division last year, so it's really a toss-up, if you ask me, between Kansas City and Oakland. But offensively, I think Oakland should have that best offense in that division. But my question to you is, do you think Marshawn Lynch is going to hold his head right and contribute? Because it's been several years since he's been a good game changer, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's a great question. I really don't know what to expect from Marshawn Lynch. I mean, a lot of people expect him to pick up right where he left off in Seattle a few years ago, but when you take a year off and then all of a sudden you come back and play that kind of position at running back and expect to get 1,000 yards out of that, I mean, that's asking a lot. I mean, he's a good player. He's always been a good player throughout his career, but I think they have to be really ready to hope that Jalen Richard has more of an impact on this team than he did last year. Only ran for 491 yards last year. So they're going to look to him to get some more touches. I think you're looking at a situation as the season wears along. If Lynch just starts to wear down, that could be a problem for the Oakland Raiders. It really could be. So I would like to see more of a balanced attack from them. I know they're a team that can throw the football around all over the ballpark with Crabtree and Cooper around there. But that running game is going to be that's going to be something to watch this year. With that division as well, you brought it up with Kansas City. I do worry with Kansas City if they're not giving up on Alex Smith. I know he's not a Super Bowl quarterback. I know he's not a Pro Bowl quarterback, but he's probably the best one to run that offense. If they have a losing streak, are they looking at inserting Patrick Mahomes in right away? I don't know if that would be a smart idea, but I think this is a division where it could either be the Raiders winning that division by 4 or 5 games, or it could be a division that could be really, really close. You still got Phillip Rivers there in Los Angeles now with the Chargers. The Broncos still have a good defense. The Chiefs have a good defense. So it's a division that in the West that really could go in many different directions.
Yeah, like I said, Alex Smith is not a flashy, sexy quarterback that's going to throw you 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards like a Breeze or Brady, but he did his job at times last year, and I've never been a big Alex Smith guy. He hasn't lived up to his number 1 overall pick in 2005, but like I said, he's won games and he's made playoff appearances, so I guess you could say he's done something right. But the biggest thing, like I said, the defense of the Chiefs is going to be probably the best in that division. It's held them for their ground the last couple of years. In being a successful team, we know Andy Reid is a very good coach. So Patrick Mahomes, he's the father. He's the son of the former Mets pitcher Pat Mahomes for the Mets in the late '90s. I don't know if you knew that, but
I did not.
No, but yeah, that's his son. So I'm a big fan of Pat Mahomes, and like I said, I'm not saying throw a rookie under the fire mid-season, but if the Browns can throw Deshaun Kaiser, the former Notre Dame quarterback, to start Week 1, maybe the Chiefs can do the same thing. But I think it's going to all come down to Alex Smith and how's the running game going to be. Obviously, Jamal Charles is now in Denver, and obviously, like you said, Spencer Ware is going to be out for the season. So that's going to put some pressure. Kareem Hunt, who I'm a big fan of, the third-round pick out of the University of Toledo. I like his speed and his possible ability to help. Then also C.J. Spiller, who basically has been out of the league for the up and down the last couple of years. So we don't know how much he has left in the tank. So the running game is going to be an issue for them. And like I said, they're not a great passing team. So they're going to rely on the defense. And if they can do that, they'll probably stay with the Raiders. But we know the Raiders could possibly score a ton of points. So it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out.
It really will be. And I think when you look around the AFC, I mean, obviously the Patriots are going to win this division. I agree with you. I think they'll get their 12, 13 wins, win the division. And then it's just about competing for that number 1 seed. Pittsburgh, I look at them probably as the second best division, just like you, second best team in the conference, just like you do. The only question, of course, is with Le'Veon Bell, what's going on with him? I know he's had his contract issues. He should still have a good year. He should still play well. But that's always an issue that's kind of hovering over the team. Ben Roethlisberger, coming off of a solid year, had a really great start to the year, kind of fell off at the end of the year. He thought about retiring, decided to come back. You expect a big year out of him. Of course, Antonio Brown, one of the top receivers in the league. I would expect Pittsburgh to be right up there at the top of this division in the North. The question is Cincinnati, Baltimore. Which one of those teams kind of joins Pittsburgh in that race for the top of the division and a playoff spot? I have questions about the Ravens. I have questions about the health of Joe Flacco. I'm not too sure if that defense is where they were several years ago. I think they're still trying to rebuild that unit. And Cincinnati's in a situation where I think they're kind of now or never. I mean, they have been a team that's been knocking on the door for playoffs, knocking on the door to win a playoff game for a long time now, and they haven't knocked the door down. And the question for me is this the year they finally do so and get to the playoffs and win a playoff game?
Yeah, and like I said, Joe Flacco I still see, the biggest problem. Like I said, Joe Flacco always seems to lose veteran receivers. He just lost Steve Smith to retirement. He's lost Antoine Bolden in recent years to other teams. It's definitely a tough situation for a guy like Joe Flacco who's in his mid-30s, and I think he's maybe a top 15. He's not a top 10 quarterback like he used to be, even if he never was, but. I mean, like I said, he's had a great career, and it's tough for him. Like I said, I wouldn't say they're in a rebuild mode, but they've transitioned a lot since their glory days against the Patriots, Ray Lewis days, and right now I would say Cincinnati has a little bit maybe edge on them. Like I said, Andy Dalton, he didn't have his best year last year, but I'm a big fan of the John Ross, the University of Washington receiver they brought in with his speed. We know A.J. Green's there, Brandon LaFell's decent, Tyler Eifert. So offensively, they're going to be fine. I think they're better than Baltimore. Not as good as Pittsburgh, obviously, but defensively, I still see Cincinnati a little bit better than Baltimore. But both these teams, to me, pretty much are 8-8 or 9-7 or maybe 7-9. I can't see them winning more than 7-9 games for both of those teams. And there's a lot better teams. I think the Titans, the Texans, all those teams are better than your Baltimores and Cincinnati's this year. So
I would agree.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough year for those markets, if you ask me.
Yeah, what's fun? What's going to be fascinating? And end of the year, and I could see a situation where, because I know Baltimore and Cincinnati play each other the last game of the year. That could be a game that determines who gets that last wild card spot. And that's no disrespect to either Kansas City or Denver or Tennessee, Indianapolis. That could be a game that could play a long way in who gets that last wild card slot in that AFC. So we'll see how that plays out. I will ask one thing I want to touch on is if the Patriots do go out there and win a Super Bowl this year, and by all the indications, they probably should go out there and probably win, if not get to a Super Bowl this year. If they get that sixth ring, and if it hasn't been cemented already, it certainly will be if they get that sixth ring, to cement themselves as the greatest dynasty of all time. I opened the show talking about comparing it to other dynasties. Which dynasty would you compare this one to, just off the top of your mind, maybe of teams that you can remember over the years?
Well, I can't really do NFL-wise, but I could see more baseball, I guess you could say. Maybe the Braves winning, was it 15 or 16 straight NL East division, I think was it 1990 to like 2005, something like that, consecutively before I think the Mets took it in 2006. But or the Yankees winning all these championships in the 90s and early 2000s. I think those are probably the two comparable, if you ask me, because I can't really say this last almost two decades, 17 years under the Bill Belichick era, because you didn't see the Steelers of the 70s or the Cowboys of the 90s kind of have these fates, I guess you could say, or these strong runs. Yeah, they won consecutive Super Bowls in multiple years, but the way the Patriots have done it for so long, they haven't lost the division since 2002. I think Miami won it that year, I believe, under Jay Fiedler, if my mind is serving me correctly. So it's been that long since they've lost the division title. So I can't really say, but like I said, the Braves titles and probably the Yankees championships are comparable to me.
Yeah, well, the only times the Patriots didn't win the division, 2002, Jets won that division. 2008,
Jets,
the Dolphins won the division with Chad Pennington at quarterback. So that's been how long it's been since they've not won the division. I mean, the teams that I can compare them to, obviously NBA, Chicago Bulls obviously come to mind, 6 championships, but those all came in a very condensed period of time. We're talking about over, 17 years here. And the only team that can come to mind, maybe San Antonio, the Spurs, in the basketball situation where, they've basically won that division almost every single year. They're in the conference finals almost every other year until now Golden State's taken over in the West. So San Antonio comes to mind. You brought up the Yankees as a great example in the 90s and the 2000s. those are the teams that come off the top of my mind if I was compare the Patriots. But if they get that championship ring this year, it's hard to not say that they're maybe the best, 2-decade dynasty that we've seen of all time in professional sports.
Yeah, and like I said, me grow up in Boston and was a 10 to 13 championships since 2001. So, yeah, I think any Boston fan's going to tell you that answer. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the fact that, like I said, we mentioned all these division titles and rings and stuff, and I can't really say this could possibly ever happen again. You're not going to have another Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, possibly duo, tandem ever again. So things you're seeing now may not happen 100 years or even 50 years from now in the NFL, or even in any sport, really. So it's definitely, I would say it's possibly the best dynasty or stretch run a sports franchise could ever have, because, the Patriots have not blown away people with big contracts or the sexiest names. Yeah, they brought in Corey Dillons and Randy Moss of the world and won Super Bowls, but they've done it with guys like Chris Hogan, who's played lacrosse at Monmouth in New Jersey, and basically have only played at college, and guys that have been on 7th round picks like Julian Edelman. So they know how to scheme well their players, like guys that have lacked experience and guys that have been overlooked on other teams. So their philosophy's really been good on evaluating players, and that's what Bill Belichick, I give him a lot of credit for. He may not be the best in-game coach in terms of some of his decisions in the past at times, like we saw with the Indianapolis game with Kevin Falk, but he's a very good talent evaluator, and I don't think he's ever gotten enough credit for that.
Absolutely true, and you have teams that go out there and try to mimic what the Patriots do. You can't mimic what the Patriots do because they're already 10 steps ahead of everybody else. Whatever other teams try to do in the National Football League, they've already done it, or they're in the process of doing it. So it's very hard to mimic. They have a pattern in which they do things, all set out by Bill Belichick. Of course, with all the executives he's worked with throughout his career, with guys like Scott Pioli, they have a system, and it's worked for all this time. And you got to give some credit here to Bob Kraft. I have to throw some shade his way because a lot of owners show impatience, and a lot of owners are quick to pull the trigger whenever things do not go well. And very few owners are very patient and let the process play out. There was a 10-year period here where the Patriots didn't win a Super Bowl, but they're winning champions, they're winning division titles, they're getting to playoffs, of course. But it's always easy to sit there for a lot of owners and say, what have you done for me lately? Bob Kraft has let this thing play out. He's let Bill Belichick run this franchise from top to bottom the way he sees fit, and I got to give him a lot of credit for doing that. A lot of owners don't do that.
Yeah, and like I said, for over 17 years now, and Bob Kraft bought the Patriots, I believe, in '94, and then they obviously built Gillette in 2002. So, yeah, he's experienced a lot, and I think he just donated $1 million to the Tropical Storm Harvey Foundation, charities out there. So he's a very generous, overall good guy, like I said, and he obviously owns some of the the soccer leagues out there in the UK. So he's a multiple business guy in many realms, so I guess you could say. So, yeah, he could have pulled the leash, after 2002 when the Patriots, they won in obviously 2001, but if they didn't win it those first 3 years, and after that, the Jets won in 2002, I'm not saying the Patriots would have pulled the trigger on Belichick, but like I said, when they went through Bill Parcells and then Pete Carroll, two quality coaches in NFL history, so their track record was very, bleak on Belichick. The Browns and the Jets, I believe, in the past. So, Bill, they got it right. So I wonder if things would have been different after that 2002 season if the Patriots didn't win in 2001. So things could have been a lot different. Or would have Pete Carroll was the coach in the early 2000s? Tom Brady may have never played. If Drew Bledsoe never got hurt, all this success could have never happened. So it was best Drew Bledsoe got hurt because this might have never happened.
It's all about decisions, and they're the kings of it. Because, again, go back to that game in 2001 with the Jets and Patriots where they knock out Bledsoe, and I remember even listening to the interview during the Brady 6 documentary, Belichick said, we could have gone to Damon Huard, but we just like Brady just a little bit more. Imagine if he felt a little bit differently. Imagine if he, Brady hadn't had that big completion in practice or didn't wow Belichick enough in practice. It could have changed everything in that season where they won the Super Bowl, and of course over the last 17 years. And remember, the Patriots before Brady took over as a starter in Week 3 of 2001, Belichick was 5-13, 5-11 his first year, 0-2 his second year, going into that first start with Brady, and of course it's been match made in heaven ever since. So little decisions like that can change everything, really can.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And like I said, I mean, his numbers have shown it. He's almost been neck and neck with Drew Brees in career passing yards, touchdowns, everything. And I don't know, 20, 30 years from now, you're going to see great quarterbacks like this. Like I said, the tandems with Belichick and Brady, stuff like that. But I don't know if you're going to see these great quarterbacks like you always do. So sometimes it's that sixth-round pick that almost went undrafted that's going to be better than, Damon Hewitt, who I think at the time was in the league for about 3-4 years as a backup through a couple of teams. But yeah, it was obviously smart instincts on Belichick's mind. What was Brady? I think 23 at the time or something like that. So he didn't have much experience. I think that was also his first professional game. So he was kind of like that Tony Romo ride the bench the first couple of years. So yeah, it was very fun. But like I said, I don't think you'll see another Tom Brady situation ever happen again, where a star quarterback gets hurt and then a new star is born later on that game for the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, and it's a remarkable story, and if anyone hasn't seen the Brady 6 documentary, I'm sure most people have by now, but if you haven't seen it, check it out, because it will send some shivers down your spine when we really think about how things could be different. Had they done things a little bit differently, and it's just amazing how things can change so quick.
You want a Super Bowl prediction as well, or do you want to say that for the end?
Let's do that first. Absolutely. Give me some predictions. What do you think this season's going to turn out to be for the Patriots?
Well, I think, like I said, I think it's going to be. I think they're going to win the division.
Right.
Wins-wise, I don't know. I just think the schedule's a little bit tougher this year, but it wouldn't shock me if they win 13, 14 games this year. So I could see another Super Bowl title. I don't want to put it on the radar yet, but I guess I'd go into. I actually think they're going to. I think possibly Steelers rematch in the AFC Championship game. But I'm going to go on a limb and say the Titans are actually going to make the AFC Championship game with the Patriots this year. I'm going to be shocking people because, like I said, Marcus Mariota and then Murray, the running back, and then you obviously got Derrick Henry. Their offense is going to be dynamic as well. So I think the Patriots over the Titans. I think it's going to be 2003 all match up Brady and McNair, kind of that rivalry again. So Brady over Mariota this year. I don't know if you'll see a rematch. Like I said, I like the Falcons to win the division. I don't know if they'll be as good as they are last year because they've had a little bit of, Freeman and stuff like that. But I would say right now the Patriots, it's a toss-up. I don't want to say the Seahawks again because, like I said, I don't know if Russell Wilson will be at his game. So right now, I guess I'll go for a rematch, Patriots over the Falcons. That's because What about you? Where are you going with your? Who do you see as a Super Bowl right now?
Well, I'm not very creative. I like the Tennessee pick, but I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to say Pittsburgh and New England in the AFC Championship game in a rematch. Pretty much the same kind of result. Super Bowl, I don't see Atlanta. I mean, I think they're going to have a tough time considering it's so hard to get back there back-to-back years. I just don't see it happening, especially coming off of a loss. If they can get home field advantage, this team that I'm thinking of can get home field advantage, they're kind of due in some ways because over the last number of years they've gotten there, and then have fallen on their face. But I'm going to say Green Bay is going to find a way to get through, and we're going to have a matchup between two of the more dynamic quarterbacks in the NFL, period, in Brady versus Rodgers in Indianapolis. That would be fun.
Yeah, 96 all over again. What was it, Brady and Bledsoe and who was it, Brett Favre at the time. Right. Yeah, I last year I said I wanted the Patriots and Cowboys, but the Cowboys have, with the Zeke Elliott situation, we don't know how that's going to really be resolved. It should be resolved later this week, but the secondary of the Cowboys they lost Barry Church, Scandrick, they lost Claiborne to the Jets, so they've lost a ton in that secondary. So I don't want to say the Cowboys because the secondary is going to be a transition for them, and I'm not saying they're going to be awful, but I still think they'll win that division, but, the Cowboys may take a little bit step back this year. So I could say either the Falcons or the Packers. I think the Packers are a solid choice, but I would say Patriots over Falcons right now. Who do you think, Packers or Patriots? Who do you got right now?
I wouldn't. Well, that's great. That's tough. I'm going to say the Patriots because, again, of the experience. But man, I mean, if you put Aaron Rodgers in a spot where he just needs to throw one pass into the end zone to make it happen, I mean, you're asking for trouble. So, I mean, it could go either way, but I'll say the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, the Patriots should be good as long, even if Brady tears his ACL again, Garoppolo, I don't know if he can lead them to the Super Bowl, but like I said, I think he could lead them to the playoffs for sure. So we don't want another Matt Castle type situation again for sure. But in terms of what we're having on 27 Ounce Baseball, the interview podcast, we are on every Sunday night on Spreaker or 3andoutradio.com. It's THR, the number 3andoutradio.com. That's our night for our network on their website. It's a radio station based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. We partner with a guy named Trace Snide. So every Sunday night we have our interview. We record during the week, obviously, and then we play it on Sunday nights at 9 Eastern. This past week we did a Cape Cod League Baseball recap show with a couple of broadcasters out there. And then if you missed the episode, we're on iHeart Radio and iTunes. Just search 3 and Out Radio. We'll have a lot of players in the off season. Like I said, once the minor league baseball season will be over within the next 3 weeks. So after that, we'll have a ton of players. We always tweet it out. I'm on Twitter at Chris Hogan _. My co-host Ben Poplin's at Ben Poplin, Poplin at 27 _ baseball. So we're always promoting our stuff on social media and stuff like that. But like I said, it's always fun to come on, Mike, and tell you about our story.
Chris, it's all good, man. It's great to have you back on. Talk a little football this time. Of course, we'll have you back on when we move into the later stages of the baseball season. As we head towards the postseason, we'll do some big shows then, man. I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight.
All right, Mike. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great night, man.
All right, you take care.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Remember, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/OpenMicProgram, Twitter at OpenMicNJ, and, of course, like us and subscribe on YouTube, The Sports Talk Nation. Take care.